Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, let's continue with our discussion about John Wick and talk about some John Wick Chapter 2.
John Wick Chapter 2. His adventures continue.
Yes, they do. Shortly after the first one.
Yes. They'll give us the exact gap, but it's not long after.
No.
It's days.
It's days. Yeah, it's within days of the end of the first one. Long enough for him to, heal up enough to be able to move around.
Yes.
Because he was pretty beat up at the end of the first one.
Just a little bit. He broke into the dog kennel and he's had to do a little makeshift first aid on himself and
But hey, maybe
antibiotics.
Maybe he's like Max Payne and all he needs to do is down some painkillers and he's fine.
Yeah, might be his superpower.
Maybe.
It was good for him though because then he found a new dog.
Yes, he did.
And he killed just about everyone.
But we find out in this movie there's even more people that he hasn't killed yet.
And then you just gotta wonder, will he kill everyone again?
Well, it's John Wick, so
chances are very high.
Yes. Chances are very high that he will kill everyone again. Or at least the people that are trying to kill him.
Right. Yeah. Well, yes. Which was the same in the first movie.
Yeah.
He obviously left Winston and Sharon and Charlie and,
those are his
innocent
allies.
Bystander. Yeah, exactly. He's got allies. And he doesn't kill innocent bystanders.
No, not on purpose.
He's not into that. I don't think. I guess we kind of discussed it last time about like Jimmy, right? Because he'll show up again in this movie, which we referenced. Mm-hmm. It's like, what exactly is his relationship to John? Is he an ally? Is he a brother-in-law? A cousin?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Maybe he arrested him once and then found out what happens when you arrest John Wick.
But yes, so as we discussed last time, I didn't see John Wick in the theaters. I also mentioned I did not see this in the theater.
Same here. Didn't see either of these movies in the theater. I did see 3 and 4 in the theater, but I did not see 1 or 2 in the theater.
But I was excited when I read that they basically greenlit a sequel for the first one pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I definitely anticipated this. I just unfortunately didn't get the chance to actually see it on the big screen. Maybe one day, I can, we'll probably do Fathom will do their normal thing and re-release it at some point.
Yep.
And I'll get that chance.
On one of the anniversaries. Yeah.
But, and like any good movie, this sequel goes bigger, badder, and just goes, yeah.
And it goes deeper into the rabbit hole.
Yes, it goes deeper into the rabbit hole. There, that's probably what I was looking for, right? It goes international also.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it expands not only like the world, but the world of this group of assassins.
Yes.
This culture of assassins.
It also gives us Common.
Yes, it does. Common is indeed in this movie.
It was not his first movie. I mean, he'd been in plenty of roles, but at this point, I just kind of, if I think about Common being in the movie, I think of John Wick 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you know who else is in this movie?
Who else is in this movie?
We have we get to play a little game that we haven't played in a while.
Oh, well, yes. Who's Who of Doctor Who?
Yes, Who's Who of Doctor Who. Peter Serafinowicz is in this movie.
Yes.
And he was in an episode in Series 9 of Doctor Who. Or at least his voice was. He was the voice of the Fisher King.
He's also another one of our favorite movies, which we covered very early in our series.
Yes, Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. And we'll get to his character.
Yes. But his character in this movie, we'll get to it, but I love his character in this movie. He
is probably one of my favorite throughout the entire series.
Yes, he is my absolute favorite character in the entire series.
Minor allies of John Wick.
Yeah, he is my favorite character in the entire series.
There is another actor in this, and we'll come to him a little bit later, that was also in Doctor Who, which I discovered earlier today, playing a minor character.
Yeah.
But what I remember the most leading up into this movie, though, was once they played it heavily into the trailer and the TV spots. It's the movie that reunited Keanu Reeves with Lawrence Fishburne.
It is indeed.
Yeah, it's funny because it's the first time I've seen this probably about maybe 3 or 4 years. Maybe it's because after having seen 3 and 4 a couple times more recently, I kind of forgot the nature of the relationship of their characters in this movie. wasn't as, eventually we'll get to it, but it becomes more friendly in the later movies.
Yes.
They become more true allies later
they do.
into the series. But we'll say more about it as we discuss those scenes. But, it's more antagonistic and less trusting, I should say. But, unlike some sequels, there is no one in this sequel that comes back from the dead. If they died in the first one, they have stayed dead in this one.
Dead in this one.
We do still get flashbacks of Helen, Bridget Monahan.
Yep.
And we kind of discussed last time some of the characters that would show up again, including Winston and Sharon and Jimmy. We also get, Aurelio is back briefly in this as well.
But we also get another member of the Torosov family.
Yes, we do. Hila Stormare. Oh, my. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to him pretty soon because it's
right at the beginning of the movie. But yeah.
He's so good. But instead of mostly focusing on Russians in this movie, we get Italians.
Yep.
But, it's really only a couple Italians. A lot of they're henchmen. Obviously, some are not Italian. Common, I don't think is very, very Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we don't get as deep into, I guess, kind of their crew. I mean, a lot of them die. But yeah, so it's focusing more on Italians. And two of the main new additions would be Riccardo Scarmarcoio and Claudia Girini. Oh, yes. And also the other kind of antagonist that gets introduced is one, Ruby Rose.
Yes.
She doesn't speak in this movie, though.
No, she doesn't.
Which is kind of cool. So
it is pretty cool.
It's nice.
She just uses sign language the whole movie.
What I like about it, in terms of the various adversaries that he goes up against throughout this series, in some ways it's very akin to Bond. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about in Casino Royale, of course, the Bond villains always have some type of quirk.
Yep.
Right. But, even the minor guys, Odd Job.
Yeah.
Right. Or Jaws.
He fights a sumo guy in this one. Like, he fights a Japanese guy that, the only way to really explain how big he is he's got to be a sumo wrestler.
He's got to be. Played by Yamamoto Ryuta. And yes, he's a retired sumo wrestler.
Yeah, his
Saitama.
Character's name is Sumo Assassin. Yeah, Yama.
Oh, he's not just any other sumo wrestler. Like, he was never ranked number one, but he's the heaviest Japanese-born sumo wrestler.
Looking at that right now too.
And he's also thought to be the heaviest Japanese person ever.
At a peak weight of 586 pounds. That is a big boy.
Yeah, 6'4". Man, look at that chest.
He's only a few months older than me. He was born May 8th, 1984.
Oh, interesting. He lives in St. Louis.
All right.
Yeah. He's born smack dab in the middle of us.
Yeah. Well, see here, IMDb has his height as 6'2.5".
See, I'm looking at Wikipedia. Who's telling the truth?
I don't know. Is it 6'2.5" or 6'4"? There's an 1.5 difference.
Yes.
Either way, he's tall and big.
And big.
Big and tall stores were built for him.
It's too bad we never got to see him side by side with Andre the Giant.
Yeah, that would have been a sight.
Hey, if they should never remake The Princess Bride, but if they do, they have their man.
They have their man.
Please do not remake The Princess Bride.
Yes, please do not remake Princess Bride. It is a classic, and it is perfect just the way it is. Does not need a remake. And if you don't believe us, go back and listen to our Princess Bride episode.
Yes, great episode. Fun episode.
But the question is, can Yama let out a 16-second fart? Andre the Giant did that.
And he's probably not going to be crushing beer in the way that Andre the Giant did. He'll just be doing sake.
Well, I don't know. He may like that.
He can do some Sapporos and Kirin's, maybe. Japanese rice lagers.
Just because he's Japanese born does not mean that he only has to drink Japanese beer and Japanese liquor.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. He might actually eat the eels, though, live.
He might.
Eel's delicious. I get it.
Yes, it is. I love eel. But yeah, then we also have some of the mainstays from the first John Wick who also appear in the later movies, like Ian McShane and Lance Reddick.
Ian McShane almost, both of their roles kind of grow.
Yeah.
And we get a better sense of who they are. And again, we talked about it's, the world builds a little bit more.
Yeah, and even John Leguizamo comes back in this one.
Yeah. And because it goes international, we kind of get to see some of the different counterparts.
Yes.
Right? Including Django himself, Franco Nero.
Yes.
When we say Django, you should know that the Jamie Foxx character Django from Tarantino's movie, Django Unchained, is actually named after a TV character.
Yes. Who appeared
that's what Tarantino does.
Who had a cameo in Django Unchained.
Yes, he did. He was also in Die Hard, too.
Yes, he was.
He died harder.
And in the TV dub, for some reason, John McClane calls him Mr. Falcon.
Yeah. Yes, he did. We do not have a Die Hard 2, Die Harder episode.
Not yet.
We will have a Die Hard 2, Die Harder episode.
Yes, we will. We just don't know when.
We don't know when. We also want a Die Hard with a Vengeance episode.
We do have a Die Hard episode, though.
Yes.
But
with the Yorks. Go back and listen to that one.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll talk about him a little bit later. But he is Winston's counterpart in Rome. Mm-hmm. Which I actually think is appropriate because I thought about this because I was rewatching a lot of it today. Remember some of the gaps because it was about a week ago that I watched it, and I thought, oh yeah, like this is Rome. This is like actually appropriate because just yesterday Pope Francis passed away as we were recording this, and a lot of this takes place in Rome, which is obviously plenty of shots of the Vatican, and there's even a bishop or cardinal that is seen at one point. And as we get to, the Pope is even mentioned, not Pope Francis, just the just the Pope. Yes, whoever the Pope would be in this universe, right? Because that's always the questions like, does John Wick exist within our actual world or universe? Yeah. Or is it kind of a separate universe or world? And we exist somewhere else within that multiverse.
Does the Paris Continental have a room where Christopher Walken stays?
We're going to mention Christopher Walken each one of these episodes, aren't we?
Probably. I mean, he's the Continental.
Have we done a Christopher Walken movie yet?
No, we haven't.
Wow. Like, he's been in so many movies that...
He has been in so many movies. I'm surprised we haven't done a Christopher Walken movie yet.
We've sort of discussed Wedding Crashers. That would be an easy way in there, but we'll see.
I mean, and we've constantly talked about Pulp Fiction.
Yes,
he does have a small part in that.
About Pulp Fiction, yes.
He has a small yet memorable part in that.
This watch. And he hit it. The only place he could think of. His ass.
He had this uncomfortable hunk of metal up his ass until he died of dysentery.
Oh, he's such a legend.
Yes, he is.
Thank you, Tarantino, for that scene.
Yes. Thank you
for casting Christopher Walken in that scene.
Yes. Thank you, Tarantino. We hope to have you on the podcast someday if you're listening.
If you're listening, give us a call or send us a message. Or if you know Tarantino, drop him a line. Anyway. But yeah, so it's, bigger, it's broader. And, again, it's hard to pick a favorite of any of these because they're also interconnected.
They really are.
I was looking at this like, oh yeah, like this is almost double the fun.
Yeah.
Of the first one.
Yeah.
Like the first one's kind of a little bit more intimate and it's allowed to stand on its own. But then you get to this, it's like, oh yeah, no, this is such an important part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then when it gets into John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, it opens things up even more.
Yes.
And we see more aspects of this world that we didn't even think could be there up to this point.
And then there's even more in John Wick Chapter 4.
Yes.
And that one gets a little bit more personal. It's the biggest.
Yes.
But it wants to think about John Wick as a person also.
Yeah.
It's also got a giant German dude.
Yeah.
John Wick 3 has Halle Berry in it.
Yep.
So, we'll get to those. And as we said.
And she does a much better job in that movie than she does in Die Another Day.
Yes. She's always, when I was younger, I thought, oh yeah, she's like hot, right? And then, she won an Oscar for Monsters Ball. And, her acting's always been kind of up or down, right? Sometimes, yeah, she does a good job. And other times,
Yeah, but then also you got to look at it by, how is she being directed?
Yes. Well, no, that's always important, right?
Because sometimes an excellent actor will give a terrible performance because that's what the director wanted them to do.
Yes. That's true. Other times, a mediocre actor can give a great performance if they are directed the correct way.
Yeah.
And all of these John Wick movies are directed so well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chad Stahelski is just
Chad Stahelski is, he's great with these movies.
And it's great because, it's not just, he was a stunt guy, essentially. And obviously that shows through all these movies. But he's able to get the right performances, too. And they do such a great job creating the universe and then getting the right people for the roles. Like we were saying, Christopher Walken, like Tarantino, this is one of the best at just knowing exactly
the right
who he
person
wants
for the right role.
in the role.
Yeah.
Right? Like Lance Reddick, perfect person for Karan,
Ian
right?
McShane,
and then
perfect
Ian
for
McShane
Winston.
was the next one, was perfect for Winston. Ian McShane, that'd be great. Like if Tarantino finally does his last movie that he's supposed to do, I could see Ian McShane sliding into a Tarantino role.
I could
into his
totally
universe.
see that. I could totally see that. Ian McShane is just a fantastic actor, just in general.
Yes. If you've never seen Deadwood, if you're listening, watch Deadwood.
I mean, he is a highlight of the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yes, he is.
He plays Blackbeard, and he's great in that. I mean, I enjoy that movie. It's just fun. I don't know that it's as good as the first three, know, because, after the third one, it sort of just became the Adventures of Jack Sparrow, which, I mean, isn't necessarily a bad thing. But, I mean, the fourth one it's a very enjoyable movie. But Ian McShane is fantastic in it.
I think I've seen that. I can't remember. The first one, that'd be a good one to do one day, though.
It would be.
We haven't discussed that often, but that would be a good one to do one day.
It would be.
And talk about apples.
Yes, apples.
But yeah, and I mean, and I think, before we dive into it, obviously Peter Stormare also, as we talked about earlier, perfect choice.
Peter Stormare, he shows up in the most random places in these movies. You never know when he's going to show up in a movie.
No, he don't. No, you just watch it oh, yeah, that's Peter Stormare.
I didn't know there was a nihilist in this movie.
I was gonna say, all I can think is I fix the cable.
Where's his ferret?
We believe in nothing.
We cut off Phil Johnson.
There was obviously, we obviously had to reference Big Lebowski in this one.
Yes.
With Peter Stormare.
Peter Stormare. I mean, come on.
Anyway, I don't think I have a whole lot to add before we actually jump into the movie.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, neither of us has really saw this one in the theater. I didn't see it until I was in the police academy, and a buddy of mine who loved John Wick, was surprised that I hadn't seen it yet. So a group of us got together and watched it one night.
Yeah, and I would think that'd be a perfect, I think, especially the first one, right? You're saying I think it'd been such a great surprise as to go into this movie and all of a sudden just realize this is something that was really special.
Yeah.
That, just weren't expecting it all to be this new action classic.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into it.
Okay.
So as always, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back and listen. If you have seen the movie or you just don't mind being spoiled, then keep on listening. But you have been warned, we will be spoiling this movie in its entirety.
I mean, we just told everybody that he kills basically everyone.
Yeah.
It's the entire premise of John Wick. He kills everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And just as a quick recap to the first movie, he killed everyone after they killed his dog.
And stole
which
his
was
car.
a gift from his wife after she had died.
Yes.
And they stole his car. Exactly. So he killed a bunch of Russians.
And now he's going to kill a bunch of Italians.
But, he kills the one and then he's, we think he's going to die. He thinks he's about dying and he sees his wife and he has a will to live again. And he repairs his wound, gets a dog, and walks off.
Mm-hmm.
Which is how we get into John Wick Chapter 2.
Yes.
But it does not begin with that dog. It does not begin with that walk.
No, it does not. It begins in New York with an overhead shot of, the streets of New York.
Such a great shot. I love it.
And there's a car chase. And you see the car that Aurelio gave to John in the first movie.
Right. That's at the end of the first one. Aurelio which, as we mentioned,
well, it
previously,
wasn't at the end of the first one. It was after
that's right.
after he
It was
visited
kind of
Aurelio's shop.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, to see where his car was.
But John Leguizamo, as we mentioned earlier, he still has that car, and it's chasing after a guy on a bike.
Mm-hmm. And that guy on the bike is going to, you know, the garage where there's a bunch of cars.
It's also like there's the garage, but like the front for them is like a taxi stand.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of yellow New York City taxi cabs.
Yeah.
In this garage also.
Yeah. So John Wick, who is driving that car, gets in there, goes into the garage, and he sort of half sneaks in, half shoots his way in. You know, it's kind of surprising there aren't more people like on him when he goes into this place.
That's true. Yes,
because he's not being quiet about it.
No. I mean, he's definitely stating his intentions.
Yeah.
And yeah, and at this point, you have different guys trying. You know, he's running some down, and others are trying to get in other cars to stop him. And his car is getting beat to shit.
Yes. And yeah, so he gets inside and he gets in, he finds his car. It's under a cover. Takes the cover off.
Right. He
gets in there, fires it up, and that's what gets everybody's attention. So yeah, he's driving around this facility and he's basically having a demolition derby with a bunch of taxis.
Yes.
Because, I mean, first he's just trying to get out of there. He's trying to drive and get out of there. Then one of them T-bones him.
He wants his Mustang. He's just trying to get out.
And one of them T-bones him. So then he's like, okay, well, fuck it. Let's just
he's not intent on killing everyone in that garage.
No, he just wants to get his car and get out of there. But
they just get in the way. And so he has no choice but to kill everybody in that, almost everyone in that garage, I should say.
Yeah, almost everyone in the garage. So he goes through just crashing into all these cars, killing everybody. And his car, his 69 Mustang is beat to shit.
Yeah, like the driver door gets,
ripped off,
taken off because like he has it open, he's dragging a guy along, and then that guy dies or whatever, but then another car comes by and obviously slams it off.
The door gets ripped off because he opens it up and backs into a person.
That's right.
And the guy breaks it up. Yeah.
There's one guy that gets hit and he gets thrown into beam in the middle of the garage.
Yep.
Right? So some are getting run over, some are getting shot.
But anyway, so he works his way through all these people.
But we're seeing then also it kind of it got cuts to the office, within the garage
where Peter Stormare is sitting, and his name comes up on the screen. He is Abram Tarasov, the brother of Viggo Tarasov,
right,
and the uncle of Yosef.
The uncle of Yosef, and he's there. I guess like his second-hand man is there, in the office, right? Not played by Dean Winters, right? So he at some point,
but his counterpart,
within the movie, after they stole the Mustang, and at this point, they brought they went to Aurelio's. Aurelio wouldn't take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they bring it to his uncle. They bring it to the uncle at some point, right? And so he's got a cigar, he's drinking, right? And he's just talking about the guy, his assistant or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
About everything that's happening. He's just like, this is like, The guy's like, why can't we just like correct this problem? And then he goes and it's like, well, because he gives you kind of the brief synopsis of the early movie. He's like, well, my nephew killed a dog and he stole a car which is currently among our inventory. Right?
A car that belonged to John Wick.
It's like, and he's like, why don't we just give it back? Well, he killed my nephew and my brother and a dozen of my men over his car and a puppy. You think he's gonna stop? And this guy is not heard of John Wick.
And then we get the whole, he once killed 3 men in a bar with a pencil. With a fucking pencil.
It's a man of focus and commitment and sheer fucking will. And then the guy, I guess, has heard of it. He's like, oh, no. Yeah, I've heard that story. And Peter Stormare just goes back with a fucking pencil. Who does that? John Wick does that.
And then he goes on to say, like, every story you've heard about John Wick has been sugar-coated.
He's like, I assure you, has been sugar-coated. And then it kind of cuts back to John Wick, and he has killed everybody in that garage but the two of them.
Yep.
And he's walking up to the office. And he goes in and he puts down a couple of rocks glasses and pours some
vodka. Hands a glass to Abram.
And they agree to a truce. They're all good.
Yep.
So Peter Stormare, he's one of the smartest people in this movie.
Yes,
he knows when to quit.
He knows when to quit against John Wick. You raise a glass of what I can only assume is top shelf Russian vodka. And you toast to a truce. And then you give him his car back.
Which he does. He's smart. He's like, you know what? Enough blood has been shed this day. Because there's a lot of people in this movie that obviously don't know. I mean, they know who they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not smart enough to just say, you know what? You
win.
I mean, Winston tries to warn people about it.
Yep. And I mean, even with events that happen later in the movie, Winston still somehow avoids to stay off of John Wick's bad side.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he still manages to stay his ally, even though he's forced to make certain decisions that we'll get to.
We will get to those. So, that's kind of the end of the prologue, right? And then we see him drive off in his Mustang, and the next time we see
first he has trouble starting it up.
That's right,
because it's all beat up. And,
I wonder why.
Yeah. So, but he manages to make it home. Pulls it into the garage.
He brings it. Yeah, and then he brings it. And he drives it over to Aurelio's.
Well, no.
Aurelio pulls up.
No, he brings it into the garage.
Aurelio pulls up,
and then so once he pulls into the garage, we find out why this car is so important to him.
That's right.
It's not just that it is a beautiful 1969 Mustang, but in the glove compartment,
that used to be pristine.
In the glove compartment, there's a card. A card from his late wife, Helen. And inside that card is a picture of the two of them. And so, he reaches into the glove compartment, pulls that out, looks at it, kisses the picture, and then goes inside and goes to bed.
Right.
And his new dog that he just picked up, jumps up on the bed and, lays down and goes to sleep too.
Yep.
And the next morning, Aurelio comes.
He does his morning routine, and Aurelio comes with his tow truck. He looks at it.
He's like, your frame's all bent. Your motor's shut. Your motor's falling out the bottom. And I don't know if you noticed, but you got a crack in the windshield.
And then finally he's like, I could fix this. Yeah. He doesn't give him a time frame. He's like,
nope, he's just I can fix it. And so and John hands him the keys. He just tells him, let me know when it's done.
And John I guess John also mentions like, thank you for finding her.
Yes, thank you for finding her.
So it really was able to make the calls.
Yeah. And it was like, well, I just made a couple calls.
So, right. And then that's the one thing you say, yeah, he'll be ready at Christmas. Just, they say goodbye, right? And then
Christmas 2030. Yeah, I can have it too by Christmas 2030.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So, the next thing is, he's back in the house, and then he gets the doorbell rings.
Mm-hmm. Well, first he goes down to the basement and he puts his guns and
that's right. And
gold coins back into the case that was in the hole that he busted out of the concrete.
We busted. That's right. The first one, he obviously after everything, he takes a sledgehammer to his basement floor and digs up an old briefcase.
So now he goes and
has
fixes
guns and fixes it. Yes, he spends the rest of his day fixing the hole in his basement.
Yep.
Right. He gets some cement. And pours it in and goes off about his day, the rest of his day. And that's when the doorbell rings.
Yes.
Right. And as we said, so this is going to be our main antagonist of the movie.
Yep.
Santino D'Antonio.
Santino D'Antonio.
Played by Riccardo Scarmarcio. He was actually Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So.
And so,
any of the movies
he can come in
might know.
And John, welcomes him in. They sit down.
John gets him some coffee.
Mm-hmm.
He's Italian. He's going to drink coffee. Right. So he's one of the head. He's part of a family that's the main.
Yeah. So
Camorra or this Italian mob.
Yeah. So basically this culture of assassins that they operate in is ruled by what they call the High Table, and Antonio's family are members of the High Table.
Yes,
his parents were
the head of the Camorra.
Yeah,
which is the head of the largest Italian mafia, right? And the parents were at the head of it.
Yeah, and so when
it's a collection they died, of the main mob, so like the Russian mob, Italian mob, the Yakuza cartels,
and so
all these groups.
When D'Antonio's parents died, they willed their seat at the High Table to his sister. Right. So he is the brother of a member of the High Table.
Exactly. And she's about to be crowned the head of the family, which means that she will get the seat at the High Table.
Yeah.
And again, the High Table, they rule over assassins and like organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we're going to kind of dive into the next new piece we kind of this the world building, as we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Right.
So we talked a lot last episode
it's
about the coins.
Yes.
The coins are basically the currency for these assassins, for this group of, that's under the High Table. So we have something new that's introduced in this movie.
It's called a marker.
It's called a marker. It is
like a large medallion that opens up, and then each person puts in their thumbprint of blood.
There's a little needle that pops out the top, and you prick your thumb, and you put your thumbprint, your bloody thumbprint inside it.
Like a covenant.
It's basically a favor. It's basically a favor that you owe someone. If someone accepted your marker, basically, if they did a favor for you, like with the marker, then you owe them.
Yes.
A huge, huge favor, whatever they want it to be.
And the debt that you would hold, you have basically owe a huge debt if when they come, you have to repay it when they come to you.
You have no choice but to repay it.
It's not like you're in an immediate debt, so to speak. You asked for a loan, and all of a sudden you got to start paying back that loan. It's not like that.
No, it's like you,
right?
Yeah,
You don't
do
know
something.
when they're going to come to you to request to pay good on this. It could be, might be a week later. It might be 10 years later. It might be 30 years later. It might be never. And when he shows up, and at first he tries to be kind of pleasant about it. It's like, I'm sorry to hear about your wife and your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he's like, with all sincerity, I don't want to be here.
But when
John
became active again, then that sort of forced my hand.
Right away, John knows that he's about to. He remembers it.
Mm-hmm.
He has this marker, and we don't know what. We don't know what John asked. How he helped John. How Antonio. Yeah. Right. Just that he helped John with something, and John now has to make good. And John's telling him, "Don't do this."
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying, like, I'm sorry, but you came back. No one gets out and comes back without repercussions. And right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he says, on the night of your impossible task, I helped you. You wouldn't have all this anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So we get the idea then that
we get the reason,
impossible task
why
that he used to help.
Yeah.
To get out. That we learned about last movie.
Because, we learned in the last movie that John Wick is not the kind of person that would allow himself to be in debt to someone like D'Antonio.
Yes.
Unless there was a huge reason for it, a good reason. D'Antonio did something, we don't know what, but he did something to help him with his impossible task that then ultimately allowed him to retire and spend time with Helen.
Right. And we all know what it is, but so, they are talking
real quick. They are going to be coming out. I was just reading about this the other day. They're going to be coming out with an anime movie. I don't know why everything has to be anime.
Yeah, I don't know,
but that's supposed to show the impossible task.
Well, that might be interesting.
Yeah,
I hope they do it well.
I do too.
We don't need that being bad. Anyway, so meanwhile, also outside, we see that he has his bodyguards. We see this one woman in particular, right? And she's nameless in this movie. It's Ruby Rose, right?
Mm-hmm.
The credits give her a name, Ares, like the god of war.
I think they mention her name once or twice in the movie.
Okay,
if I remember right. But she uses sign language. It's never it's never actually revealed if she's deaf or mute or just doesn't like to talk.
That's just her thing. She doesn't talk. And this scene we don't really see her do any communication. She's just standing there kind of stoically observing what's going on. And she's wearing an actual suit, most of the other hitmen and bodyguards are for them, right? So, but ultimately, because we need to have a movie.
Yeah, John refuses.
John Wick refuses.
He refuses the marker, and so D'Antonio, wishes him a good night, and he goes back out to his car. And after John Wick closes the door, we see D'Antonio get into the trunk of his car, and he pulls out a grenade launcher, and he starts loading up grenades into it. Turns around and fires them through the windows of the house.
That might get a noise complaint.
It might. It might. It might lead to Jimmy showing up again.
Might lead to the fire department also showing
that too. But yeah, so the first grenade that goes into the house blows up, and the shockwave from it launches John out the window,
through the back window onto his backyard.
Yeah. So then
he launches a few more.
And the house is just on fire, and it's burning down and blowing up. And John is laying there on the ground, watching his house burn, the house that he lived in with Helen.
Obviously, shell shocked, and he can't do anything about it. And he's not going in, and they're just.
He had just been looking at a picture of him and Helen.
Yeah.
And remembering her, and then we see that picture burning up. And then
This man's gonna be pissed.
Just when you think that D'Antonio killed his new dog, we all got to jump with joy because that new dog comes out to John, and he's safe.
No dogs die in this movie.
No dogs die in this movie.
Anyway, so it cuts. D'Antonio and his crew, they've left, and now the fire department's there, and
Jimmy's there.
Jimmy's there. Yep, he's sitting kind of like John's sitting kind of on the front fender of a fire truck, and
his dog is sitting next to him.
And there's Jimmy, and they're talking, and Jimmy's like,
"You working again?
You working again?" No, Jimmy.
Yeah, John's like, "No, Jimmy."
Maybe Jimmy probably just wants to see him work again.
Yeah. I mean, hey, he's a good friend. He wants to make sure that his friend is gainfully employed.
So he gets up, he walks off. It's now becoming daybreak, right?
Yeah,
Dawn.
And we see him walking across the bridge.
He walks across the Brooklyn Bridge, right? And the dog's walking with him.
And he walks
to the
right up to the Continental. So he walked all the way from New Jersey into downtown Manhattan to the Continental.
So he would have had to go across. If he's going over the Brooklyn Bridge, right? Would have been I can't think of that bridge right now that connects Jersey to Staten Island. But then we walked across Staten Island to the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and walked over that. And then walked all the way up Brooklyn across the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yep.
Right? Because we see him walking across the bridge.
Yeah. And
he could have taken the subway.
He could have.
No, he wanted to walk. He was pissed.
Walked it.
He was going to walk.
He walked it all. And yeah, as we stated in the last episode, the Continental is a Flatiron building.
Yes. At least the exterior.
Yeah, at least the exterior is the Flatiron building.
I like the idea that the Flatiron building is actually a hotel for assassins.
Yes, me too. The Flatiron building is something different in every movie it appears in. It's like, I've never been to New York City, and I would love to go, and I would love to see the Flatiron building in person. But I really just want to know what actually goes on in that building. Like, in real life, what goes on in a Flatiron building. Because, it's the Continental in John Wick. It's the Daily Bugle in Spider-Man.
That's right. I forgot about that.
What actually goes on in the Flatiron building?
If anyone works in the Flatiron building, we would love to hear from you.
Yes, we would.
Yes, we live in the Flatiron building.
Is it really a hotel for assassins?
It's even mentioned in Lost.
Yes, it is. It's what made Michael want to become an architect.
I guess it's one of those buildings because it's a tallish building, not now, but back then it would have been. But it's distinctive enough to make it seem like it would be an office within a city, right? Yeah. And that's kind of what it is. Yeah. So anyway, so he gets in there, he's walking in, and
he just walks right up the front desk, and Sharon's there. And Sharon is at the desk
to see the manager. He's like, he's like, yeah, should I announce you? He's like, yes. Right? And so then it cuts to like the roof of the Continental.
Well, yes.
And Winston's there, and he's got, a little like eyepiece there that you would use to examine coins or stamps or bills, right? It's a little magnifying glass. Mm-hmm. And there's a guy there, a coin maker. And it's
the
guy who makes the coins
is what he's got.
Yes. Right.
So yeah, he's examining this coin and he hands it back to the guy and he's like, "These are perfect.
It's impeccable.
Yeah, impeccable."
He's like, and there's someone assistant there. He's like, "Put these in the circulation." Right. So, you know, a little clue about the world, right? And then the guy, you know, he dismisses the guy and he goes off and, you know, and now you have Jonathan there. Or, because, I mean, Winston calls him
Jonathan, yeah.
Right. Which is why, like, for a long time, well, you know, we can get more into it. I at this point, I had a theory about whether Winston was John's father.
Yeah. They've always had sort of a father-son type relationship.
Yes.
And yeah, stuff that goes on in the later movies kind of makes you wonder a little bit more about that.
Right. So he asks pretty much straight up though where Santonio is. Right? He's like, he burned down my house. And then he's like, you rejected his marker. So obviously the word's gotten out that John's house burned down.
Yeah.
And it was because he rejected a marker.
And he tells them there are 2 rules that you must follow. No business operations, no business on continental grounds, and you must always honor a marker.
So the other thing about this scene, since we're talking about the Flatiron Building and we're in New York, and again, this is like the roof or like a large patio area, which, you know, most people are kind of familiar with large rooftop patios. Yeah. Or even like sometimes not even on the roof, they're halfway up, right?
But it's like a rooftop
green areas
garden
on the right. You know, if you've seen, anyway. So you look at the background, and it looks like you see St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, right? Mm-hmm. So where this scene was actually filmed was Rockefeller Center. So apparently there's some like kind of garden there, not on the, I don't think it's on the roof of the Rockefeller, you know, it might be halfway up or 3/4 of the way up, something like that, right? High up on Rockefeller Center. That's where they filmed this scene. Right. Okay. And so they're saying like, yeah, you know, and he's saying like, you were lucky that he stopped at just burning the house down. It's like, and then he just asked like, what were you thinking giving a marker to a man like Santonio D'Antonio? Right? I mean, obviously he's well known to be a hothead and kind of sadistic, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, well, it's the only way I could get out. And Winston's like, you call this out? It's like, you thought this day would never come, that he would never want you to honor the marker?
Yeah. And he even asked him, like, what did he want you to do? And John said, I didn't ask.
Right. And then he goes a little bit deeper. He's like, you know, back about the rules, like, you know, if you do business on here, my judgment comes in the form of excommunicado, right? Mm-hmm. Which, as we learn, doesn't necessarily mean that you get executed.
No, but it just means that you're not allowed. That all of the continental services and privileges are no longer offered to you.
Right. And that would include, you know, anyone that might help. Be like, even, for example, Aurelio, right? He has a chop shop. If you want to hide a car there, right? Mm-hmm. Or try to sell a car that you just, you know,
or
stole,
just have him fix your car.
And you were excommunicado, he would have to reject you. Mm-hmm. He would not be able to offer you any service.
Yep.
Right. But with the markers, you know, and anything that comes with a foul of the high table, then it's a more severe outcome. Mm-hmm. If their traditions are refused, you dishonor that marker, and because he's connected to the high table, then you die.
Yeah.
If you kill the holder of the marker, you die. And you run, you die.
Well, if you kill the holder of the marker before you accomplish the task.
Yes. If you kill the holder to get out of accomplishing the task.
But
you die.
If you accomplish a task, then you can kill the holder if you want to. As long as their bloody fingerprint is on there too, showing that the marker has been honored. Then, yeah, as long as you're not on continental grounds.
He tells them, do what he wants, be free. Right? And he's like, at that point, you can burn his house down and be my guest.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, he's just like, and finally, John's like, rules. He was like, rules.
Yeah.
It's what separates us from the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it cuts. Jonathan's walking. And
John goes back down to the desk.
I'm glad. Thank you. Yes, I'm glad
he goes back to the desk and he asks
the dog
Sharon.
isn't waiting at the desk.
Yes, he left the dog with Sharon at the desk, and he goes back down there and asks him if the Continental boards. And Sharon says, "Unfortunately, this facility does not. However, I would be happy to take up the responsibility if you would like."
And then, does he have a name?
And John says no.
No. And then John and the dog look at each other. John looks at the dog, tells him to stay,
and he stays. And even right here, I mean, you can tell that Sharon is going to be a great dog sitter.
Oh yes,
he's going to be a fantastic dog sitter.
Yeah, no doubt about that. In fact, he's really looking forward to dog sitting.
Yes.
So that's when it cuts to John, and he meets up with Santonio.
Yeah, he meets up with Santino
at art museum.
Yeah, at the museum, and it's all the D'Antonio family's art
collection. Yes, and it's their art museum, right? So they run it, and they have their own private collection there, and it'll become a big set piece later in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
This art museum, by the way, so it's actually the filming, the location of it, and a lot of the interiors of it. When we see all the art and everything, is actually in Rome, which makes sense because they shot a lot of this movie in Rome.
I was also wondering, is it the same art museum that is shown in Skyfall? The interior, where Bond meets with Q. Because it seems like it's like the same room they're in.
I don't have the name of it right here right away. It's funny because I have a lot of the other filming locations, but I don't have that one right off. Anyway, yeah, that's a good question.
But anyway, so
he's sitting, he walks up, they have Aries is there, right? And she has to frisk him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she cups his butt.
Mm-hmm. Reaches down right between his legs, grabs his butt, and then runs her hand across his taint.
And points to where, Antonio's sitting. And he's sitting in front of this massive painting of this, like, battle scene. Right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny. It almost looks like it's, like, from the Civil War. I looked into it. So it was painted in the late 19th century. But it depicts, like, an Italian battle.
Okay. Which would make sense
also because it was a battle from the 19th. It's a 19th century battle, right? So, which is why it might kind of have a similar look in terms of kind of military wear.
Okay.
And formation, right?
Yeah.
So he sits down and they start talking.
And Santino explains what the favor is that he needs John to do in order to...
And he even tells him that if he stayed retired, he would have let it be.
Yeah, he would have let it be. But because he came out of retirement briefly...
And then he's like, I see you. You're counting the exits and the guards, thinking about how you can kill me and get out of here, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would you do it?
That person's pencil? Their glasses?
That man's cane? And then he just says, my hands.
My bare hands.
You can tell that he's kind of thrilled to hear that. He's like, ooh, that's a way to go.
I love that because he's like saying it through his teeth. He's like, my hands.
Right? He's like, and then he sees the eyes. And that's what really gets me. He's like, That's the John Wick that I need.
Yeah, that's the John Wick I need. The Baba Yaga.
And he's going to get that one.
Yep. And so,
and he does like, yeah, I want you to kill my sister. Right? She's going to, when my father died, he willed his seat to her. And I can't help but wonder what I might accomplish instead.
Mm-hmm. So if she dies, he's the next in line for the seat.
And he's just like, you want me to kill Gianna D'Antonio. His sister's name is Gianna.
Mm-hmm. Gianna D'Antonio. And yeah. And so, he has to agree. He has to honor the marker.
And then he's like, well, she's in Rome. You can take the catacombs in. Right? So as we'll see later, like, they live, like, their family palace in Rome is like amongst these old Roman ruins.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, which we can discuss later as we get there. Essentially, the filming scene is actually these old Roman baths that were built like around the year 200. Anyway, and he's saying like, no, well, you can take the catacombs in. And then he's like, well, no. He's thinking like, it still can't be done. That's why I need you. I need the ghost. Lo Spetro. So I guess he has multiple names.
I guess so.
He's the boogeyman. He's Baba Yaga. He's Lo Spetro.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it just depends on which nationality is talking about, which group is talking
that's
about
what
him.
I was thinking about that. It's like, okay,
because the Russians call him Baba Yaga. Yeah.
The Italians call him Lo Spetro.
Yeah. What do the Spanish call him?
What do the Japanese call him?
I'm trying to think, because he does have some run-ins with Japanese in John Wick 4. I'm trying to think if they have a name for him.
Anyway, so it's like, if you do this, your marker is honored, right? And then he leaves. And then I love how, he's like, yeah, and then, Centenario's like, never one to waste words, right? And that's when you get the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great John Wick music.
And then we
kind of get a little montage. And he goes to like, it's almost kind of like a bank.
Yeah, he goes to,
It's not really like a formal bank.
But they've got a vault
They have a vault, and they have like safety deposit boxes.
Mm-hmm.
He gives his number, and it's these like Hasidic Jews that run this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they go in, they take out his box, right? And he opens it up, and he has a couple suits in there, right? There's some more gold coins. It looks like there's a passport and a gun, right? And before this, like, again, when he got attacked by, when his house got,
when his house got blown up, all of his supplies.
He was basically
down there,
wearing like a t-shirt, and like jeans, right?
It was a Henley.
And again, he walked from New Jersey to Manhattan.
Yeah. So he's got to be sweaty and stinky.
They don't have a shower there, unfortunately.
Especially since he was still wearing those same clothes when he went to Rome.
Yes.
So he got on a plane smelling like ass. He was that guy.
He puts it on though, and like the manager as he leaves, he's like, he speaks in like Hebrew. He's like, "Happy hunting, John Wick."
Mm-hmm.
You can tell, this guy's stoic. He doesn't say much. He just does what he's supposed to do, and he tells he's excited that John Wick has come back.
So then we get a little bit of montage, and he's going
to Rome.
He goes into. See, does he go in the library first to look at the maps of the catacombs, or does he go to the tailor first? Because
before he does that, he checks into the hotel.
Yeah, that's right. He checks.
So
he checks.
You kind of get
you
get your classic shots. Since we're now in Rome, you get classic shots throughout the city. You see some of the Roman ruins. You see the St. Peter's, right?
You see the Colosseum.
You see some of their stuff from the that was built more during the Renaissance. Then you see the Rome Continental, right? And he requests a room from the concierge there, and that actress, I had her name up earlier, is Yuma Daikati, right? Actually, not she doesn't act a whole lot. She is a model. That's what she's really known for, is a model. She also appeared in Ocean's 12. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, so she takes the coin, and then he hears a voice behind him calling him Jonathan. And it's Franco Nero, the owner manager of the Roman Continental Rome.
Julius.
And his name is Julius. And so they sit down together. And he just really wants one question. He wants to know if John's there for the Pope.
Yes. And John says
John
no.
shakes his head, no. And he takes out a key card from his jacket, He
hands it to him. He's like, one of our finest rooms.
One of our finest suites. And has to get the montage.
Yeah. So John goes to a tailor to get a new suit.
Well, I think the first thing he goes into is kind of like the little bookshop.
Okay, so it is the library. Okay,
yes.
So
yeah, he has like different maps.
Of catacombs.
Not just maps, but also like blueprints.
Yes.
So and basically going through the maps and blueprints for some of the catacombs, and then the estate for the
and how he's going to get into the estate to be able to take out Gianna.
He even has the keys for the gates in there.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how this guy does it, but
I don't either. But
he did it.
Yeah. Then he goes to a tailor where he needs a new suit, and he has some.
I think how
do you need one for day or one for night? He's like,
it's like
both. One for day and one for night.
And he gives his measurements. He's like, it's like tactical and all these things, right?
And then how would you like? How do you like the suit? Italian. How many buttons? 2. What about the lining? Tactical.
What I love about it, so at this point, they're cutting back between the different places that he's going. And we're going to take them one by one. I think.
Yeah. We're not going to mix them up like they do in the movie, but. There's
this little Chinese woman that works there, and like they kind of walk through the back, and at the front of it's almost like
it looks like a sweatshop.
Sweatshop, yeah, exactly.
But
and she goes in, and like this point where they demonstrate the lining, and she just takes out a gun and starts shooting at it.
Brilliant, because the first movie, when John was getting ready in his hotel room with the Continental. You see him putting on a bulletproof vest.
Yes.
In this movie, they step it up a notch, and the body armor is actually sewn into the suit.
Right. The tailor even talks about how it's going to be sewn in there, and it's like, and if you get hit, like it won't penetrate, and he's like, it'll hurt.
I love that face. He's like, ugh.
He gives a little grimace. It's such a. Well, it's a refined grimace.
Yeah.
Because he's wearing this nice suit himself, right? And he's like, ooh. Right?
But so he's like, it'll then, zero penetration, but it will hurt.
And then he said, well, when do you need this? He's like, can you put a rush on it and get it, today? He's like, yes, we'll have it brought to your room.
Yes.
Right? And then, it cuts back, and then he also ends up going, back to the concierge. And then he asks her a question.
Yes. Is the sommelier in?
It's like, I have never known him not to be.
So here we go. So John Wick walks into this wine cellar, basically.
Yep. And he sees some bottles of wine.
He sees some bottles of wine because he's going to see the sommelier. And the sommelier is my all-time favorite character in the entire John Wick series. He's played by Peter Serafinowicz. And the camera pans over from these bottles of wine to show him standing behind a bar. And behind him are guns. Just racks of guns.
You have a rack that has rifles and shotguns and semi-automatics. You have a wall that has some handguns and pistols,
and so he's
putting one up.
He's putting one of the pistols up on the rack there, and he turns around and sees John there.
His heart beat 3 times faster that day. It's like, I'm going to get paid well.
Yes. And then, he calls John over. He calls John over to the bar and
to show the new varietals.
Yes, the new varietals. Because he tells him, I know that you're pretty partial to the German models, but
in the first movie we mentioned that he did use a HK.
Yes, he used an H&K,
which was a German varietal.
Yes, and so he's like, I know you're quite particular about the German models, but might I turn your attention to the Austrian varietals? Glock 32 and 26. He pulls them off the shelf, puts them on the countertop on the bar, and John's looking at him, and he's telling him all these improvements that have been made to it, a flared magwell, all this stuff, better grips, and this whole time, John is, he's handling the weapons.
He's taking it back, and he's putting it through some paces, and then he's seeing how it feels in his hands, right? And then it's like, no, well, what next? Something, intimate and precise.
Yeah, something robust, precise,
robust and precise. Yeah. And then the sommelier is like, robust, precise. And you see him think. And he gets a little.
I love how they're talking about guns as if they were wine. So he gets an AR-15. He hands it to him, tells him about all the modifications that are made to that, and
John does the same thing.
Yeah,
he feels it, and he puts it through a few paces, and then it's like, and finally the sommelier is like, anything to finish the evening.
And something, he's like, and then how about something for a little bit later? And
something big, bold.
Big, bold. May I offer you the Benelli M4?
An Italian classic.
Italian classic. Yes.
He does the same thing.
He does the same thing. Yeah,
he feels it, and
Sommelier tells him about all the
modifications,
all the modifications, and then after the gun discussion, then John's like, "How about dessert?" And I love how excited the sommelier gets when he mentions dessert. His eyes light up, and all he says is dessert. It's like he just sighs like dessert.
It's like this is what sets John Wick apart from everybody else. Very few people ask him for this about dessert wines. So
he pulls out this
John
box.
Wick does though.
So he pulls out this box, and it opens up like a tackle box, right? And it's just full of knives. So he starts describing the knives. These are all freshly stoned. They're so John's taking out a couple of knives, looking at them, and then it kind of cuts ahead a little bit, and the sommelier is like, "Shall I send them up to your room?"
He gives them some gold coins, right? And he gave everyone some coins for their
the different areas they were.
And then and then you see him go up in his room, and down you start seeing him put on his new suit and everything.
Now all the stuff that he ordered is in his room. The suits, the guns, the knives, everything.
We should also mention that when he was kind of checking into the Continental, we get a shot of like kind of a rooftop looking down at them, and Ares is there. Yeah. Right. And which makes a lot of sense that she's keeping tabs on him, right? And she's just drinking from a styrofoam cup. She's got like a Lipton tea bag in there. Yeah. I don't like how she drinks. She could do so much better, but she just drinks from cheap styrofoam cups.
Maybe she likes it. Maybe she likes the taste that cheap styrofoam cups put into her Lipton tea.
Anyway, so
Nothing against Lipton iced tea. I mean, if you enjoy Lipton iced tea,
yeah,
more
no,
power
I
to you.
don't have a big problem with iced tea. So
I've enjoyed a glass of Lipton iced tea from time to time.
I always remember sometimes watching The Price is Right, and then you get the Louisiana.
Yes, the
tea
Louisiana
bags,
tea
commercials. Anyway, so we cut to nighttime, right? And he's going through this entrance to the catacombs, and he's putting his guns at different points, right?
Because he knows that what's going to end up happening if he makes it all the way in to kill Gianna.
He'll have to exit out. That eventually, he'll just more than likely have to shoot his way out.
Yeah, so he arranges the guns in different areas along the catacombs, and it's sort of playing ahead.
And then he gets up to kind of where they're having the coronation, the party, and there's a huge stage there, and there's some musicians there, and I always get reminded of The Fifth Element when I
always get reminded of Matrix Reloaded when I see this.
I can see that too,
because it's essentially another rave in a cave.
Yeah, they're basically
there's no pizza oven in this one though.
It just seems so weird. It seems like it's like these refined Italians, and they're raving in the middle of these Roman ruins.
Yeah.
Right. And we see these, she's walking through and she's greeting people. And there's like I said, there's like a cardinal there and these other guests. And then we see Common, who is her bodyguard.
Yeah. He's basically what we find out. He's basically the Black John Wick.
Yes. His name is Cassian. Right. And he tells her that someone is waiting for her up in her living quarters, right? Mr. Oconee, he calls him Oconee, right? And she's like, okay, well, I'll be up there shortly to speak with him, right? And so she kind of heads off, and then Common's about to follow her, and he sees John Wick.
Mm-hmm. And he knows that if you see John Wick somewhere, then it's never a good sign when you see John Wick somewhere.
And he asks her, "Are you here on business?" And he's like, "I'm afraid so." And so he doesn't do anything about it at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we go up, and so it's like her kind of living area, right? And Mr. Coney's there, played by Chukwudi Awuji, who was in Doctor Who.
Yes, he was.
A couple, 2 episodes, but also most people probably at this point would know him better as the High Evolutionary.
Yes.
And Guardian of the Galaxy's Volume 3, which obviously came out after John Wick Chapter 2. Mm-hmm. So he was not as well known at this point. And they're discussing business, and he's unhappy that basically she took his territory.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, you put guns to my guys' heads, right? And then, well, first she asked, are you enjoying the festivities, right? She's trying to do things politely. And then he just says, well, you can't take what's rightfully mine. She's like, nothing was taken. And she's like, well, no, those among your own, they came to me. And he's like, well, a knife was pressed to their throats. And she's like, semantics, right? Besides, that blade you speak of was meant for their children. They were only meant to watch. Right? And she says, what was yours is now ours. Go enjoy the party. Right?
Yep. And then Oconee leaves.
Yep. And then she tells Cassian that I'm going to freshen up a little bit more. You can leave. Right? So he leaves. Right? And, she's got like this pool, like this gigantic sauna pool.
It's like a giant hot tub. It's like the hot tub in Gladiator 2.
Yes. It is. Right? And then she sees John Wick in the shadows, right?
No, well, the camera kind of pans around and there's nothing behind her, and then it does the whole horror movie trick of, then she sort of stands up again and he's right behind her.
Yes. And she realizes that, he's there for her.
Yep.
And he tells her that her brother sent him.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk, right? And what's funny about this is, like, she alternates between, like, I think John respects her a lot. He doesn't want to do this, but he has to.
He has to because there's a marker.
But you can also tell she's, like, ruthless from the conversation we just heard, right?
Yeah. Willing
to threaten and kill children for territory.
Yeah.
Right? So, take that what you will. And so they, and then she's saying, it's like, you know how my brother is, and you know how bad things will get if he takes my seat at the table. And he says, okay, I have a marker that I have to fulfill. Right? And so, they're talking, and then she's quietly slips off her dress.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She's now naked, and she kind of walks into the pool, and then she takes out like this pin from her hair.
Yeah, and
right?
It's basically a knife she keeps concealed in her hair.
Yes.
Like it's a curved blade. A slightly curved blade.
And she's gonna go out on her own accord.
Yeah, she's like, you're not gonna kill me, I'm gonna go out on my own terms.
Like, my brother was not gonna do this, right? So she takes it and she goes like all the way down.
She
her arm.
slits her not just her wrist, but like all the way down her forearm.
Yeah, going for the entire forearm.
Yeah, she does it on both sides, both arms, and then
she sits down in like the hot tub, and starts bleeding, and she's starting to talk, because she's not,
it takes a little bleeding. Bit for somebody to bleed out like that.
But you can tell she's slowly just starting to lose consciousness.
And so John just sits there and talks with her. He continues. He's got his gun out. He's holding onto his gun, but he's not really pointing it at her. Sort of just in her general direction. But he just sits there, talks to her, and then
she's starting to lose consciousness.
Yeah.
He holds her hand, and then as she actually
as she
passes out and dies,
starts to pass out before she's able to die, he shoots her in the head.
He just shoots her in the head, right? And I think he's like,
in order to fulfill the marker, he had to be the one to kill her. And so he made sure to do that before she actually died.
She was like at peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that she was kind of initiated it, but he's also not happy that he has to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And he also knows that there's still going to be consequences for this.
Yeah.
Right. So he goes out, and then he passes Cassian again.
And Cassian realizes what direction he was coming from, and
then she's like, John's like, I'm afraid so. Right? And that's when he takes out his gun and he shoots at him. And
so now they're running through the crowd of partiers. So John jumps on stage and shoots one of the guards. Like one of the people that works for Gianna. And everybody cheers.
That's what I wanted to get to. Like, because after they have their first fisticuffs, right? And he starts running off, right? He calls all the other bodyguards about to get Wick. And he gets on the stage. And he kills one of them on the stage. And it was like, yeah,
everybody just starts cheering as soon as he kills the guy. It's like, what goes on at these raves?
Hey, most of them are well aware of this family. It's killing is just killing, I guess.
I guess.
What?
But I mean, the performer that's up on stage, the singer, just keeps on singing.
All the musicians, the singer.
Somebody's murdered right in front of her, and she just keeps on singing.
So he basically, he's able to shoot through most of those bodyguards. He gets back in the catacombs, right?
And I love this sequence. I love this sequence.
It's kind of quiet again. And then he gets to a certain point, and that's when Ares walks out. And always he says loose ends.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of nods her head, she just signals like one, meaning just one.
Yeah.
Which is him. But he's ready. John Wick is always ready.
John Wick is always ready. So all these people come into the catacombs and start attacking him. So he's shooting his way through them, gets to his different guns, gets to his AR, starts shooting people once he runs out of ammo for that. He ditches that. And luckily, he's at his shotgun now. So he grabs that.
He's got an Italian classic.
This movie should have been called Headshot. I mean, he's double tapping everybody. Doesn't matter which gun he has, he's double tapping them.
I love. There's a certain one that like he needs to kind of like reload it with the Benelli, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he just shoves the muzzle into the guy's chest.
He shoves the muzzle in his chest,
and then he reloads it,
and then just pulls the trigger.
I don't know if he double tapped that guy.
Well, I mean, he had no torso afterwards, so I don't think there was a need.
So he gets through everyone, and there's at least twice as many of these guys.
Oh yeah,
as the other guys.
So just in this one catacomb scene, there's at least twice as many people as the entire first movie.
They keep coming out of nowhere. They like this. Like I would think maybe Ares, flew on a private jet to Rome.
Yeah,
like the rest of them, like fly
she's Santino's right hand woman, so of course,
like where did they get all
sent her there
people?
in style?
I don't know.
Yeah,
but he's able to get through. He gets out of the catacombs, right? And he eludes her, and he's getting out.
And then
the car comes. Yep, and hits him with the car.
Mm-hmm. Cassian hits him with the car, and they're fighting.
And they're fighting. They're fighting through the streets of Rome, and
Mm-hmm.
it's late at night now. It's much quieter than the ruins where there was a shootout and a raid.
And then Cassian kicks John through a window,
right,
and into a lobby. And then we realize
they kind of roll over together, and they get guns drawn out at each other's heads.
And then they realize that they're in the lobby of the Continental, of the Roman Continental.
And so you see, Julius. Julius, thank you.
Yeah, Julius is there.
See him there, and he's dressed nicely still. And there's these three other guys there standing ready to like kill them. If one of them
tries to conduct business on the Continental grounds.
It's like, must I remind you?
So they're like, no, and they
no, sir.
They put their guns away. They stand
I suggest a drink at the bar.
Yeah.
And John looks at Cassian. He's like, gin, wasn't it?
And Cassian says,
yes. He's like, yes.
And Cassian looks at John. He's like, bourbon, wasn't it? And John's like, yes.
Yes.
So they go up and they're sitting next to each other at the bar. John's got a glass of bourbon. Cassian's got a gin drink.
And John's like, just tells him, I had no choice. I had
a marker.
And he's like, Cassian's like, from her brother. He's like, yeah. And it's like, he's good. Well, he had to. So I love the relationship between them. Like, this is.
I mean, yes, they want to kill each other, but there is a mutual respect. That, you don't find just in any other real movie, really. It's.
And he understands at this point, he understands that, okay, you had to kill her. I get that because of the marker.
He understands the rules of the high table.
But it's like, but you killed my boss. I have to avenge that.
Mm-hmm.
And John respects that.
Yeah.
And then, so Cassian, as he finishes his drink, he decides that this is on me. It's like, I'll try to make it quick. Or I will make it quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Cassian says, I will make it quick. And then John says, I will try the same.
Right. And so as they're kind of saying this, then we see kind of over their shoulders, we see that Ares is like listening to them. right? That she was, gotten back to the Continental as well.
Yeah, so she's sitting in a chair just behind just back away from the bar behind them.
And then so John, he takes a minute, he finishes his drink, and then he doesn't finish it.
No, he just picks up the glass and
takes another sip. And then she signs like,
let me buy you a drink.
And he's like, no. And then she says, she signs, I'll be seeing you. And then he signs back, not if I see you first.
Yeah. So the whole I'll be seeing you thing is sort of a recurring thing in the John Wick movies. Because they said it in the first one.
It's the end of the first one.
Yeah. They said it at the end of the first one. And then
we're going to hear it again later in this movie.
Yeah. So it's just be seeing you. And then he says, not if I, and then he signs back, not if I see you first.
So he brings his glass of bourbon up to his room. And he gets a phone call in San Antonio. And then he says, like, I'm sorry, but, what kind of brother would I be if I didn't avenge my sister's murder?
Mm-hmm.
And then he just hangs up on him, right? And then he calls the front desk and tells them that he's going to be checking out in the morning, right?
Yeah, and then we see D'Antonio, and he's at the New York Continental, and Winston is there with him. And
Winston brings up to him, there's like a ledger that has it's smart. Someone can't just have this thing and say, oh yeah, I had this marker.
Yeah.
This person didn't fulfill it. No, you also have to put it within this ledger.
So you get
that's cut by an independent third party.
Yes. So yeah, not only do you have to put your bloody thumbprint on the marker itself, but you also have to put it next to your name on the ledger to show that the marker has been fulfilled. And so Winston has that book. He has the ledger, and he's urging D'Antonio to put his mark. He's like, he fulfilled the marker, so mark it.
D'Antonio's just kind of scoffing at it. Like, he's going to be dead soon anyway. I'm going to put a bounty on his head. He's not going to be able to. And again, he's completely underestimating John Wick, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah. Especially since he was a part of John Wick accomplishing the impossible task. So he should know more, better than anybody else, what this man is capable of.
Yeah. And so, but, he decides to go ahead and, he pricks his thumb, right? And puts his bloody thumbprint on his end of the
marker,
ledger,
and then he puts on
say that. So the person that, like John Wick puts his first, right? That's saying that I will promise to do this when he does it. And now the second person that once it's fulfilled, saying like, yes, he fulfilled it. Yeah. Now I can put my thumbprint on it, right? Yeah. So just like the marker will have, it's the other way
two
around,
fingerprints.
Right? Okay.
The ledger will have two fingerprints also.
And so, but before Winston leaves, like, you have no idea what's coming, do you?
Because Winston knows. He knows what John can do.
You stabbed the devil in the back and forced him back into the life then he left. You incinerated the priest's temple and burned into the ground. And now he's free of the marker. I mean, as you said earlier, he can freely kill him now, as long as he's not on
continental soil,
company ground.
Yeah.
Right? It's like he had a glimpse of the other side and he embraced it. But you, Senor D'Antonio, took it away from him. And he's like, no, he can't. No, he was already back. He's like, no, he came back for love, not for you. And he's like, now he's coming again. And he did tell you not to do this. So he warned you. And he says, adieu.
Yeah. So D'Antonio puts out a contract on John for $7 million.
Right. So we get another little glimpse within the world, right? He dials a number, and he's like,
and there's basically a switchboard.
He asks for accounts payable, right? And there's a old-fashioned switchboard, right? And he just says, open contract on so-and-so, John Wick. And then they give them the amounts, and they go through a whole thing. It's like the person, someone types it up on a typewriter, and they give it to somebody else, right? And then that kind of gets sent through pneumatic tube.
Yes, pneumatic tube, just like Batman.
And then it gets put into like an old like 1980s style like computer, right? But then this sends out text messages.
Yeah, because it's an open contract, so it sends it to every assassin out there.
Now this one right now is just like out of. You could also specify, okay, just New York, just America, or you could say it international, right? You can kind of specify how many people it goes to, right? So you cut back, you get John. He's checking out the Rome Continental. He's back in New York now.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's kind of confusing here because it's not too long after this that it's revealed that Cassian is following him.
Right.
But after he checked out of the Rome Continental, he's just automatically in New York again.
Yes.
It makes it seem like Cassian started following him and like they were starting their fight. They're starting their, trying to shoot each other in Rome and made it all the way to America when it's really just a time jump of him, it doesn't show the plane ride or anything like that.
I should mention as he's checking out, like he's talking to Julius and he thinks, I guess he's arranged safe passage for him. He mentions that.
Okay. Yeah.
And he goes down the elevator to do this.
Yep.
Right. But then it cuts back to New York. And the contract's out and he's out there going around and
walking through the airport first off.
Yes.
And he's walking on the ground floor and Cassian is up on a catwalk, like walking up like on a walkway up higher. And they both have silenced pistols and they're just shooting at each other. Like with crowds of people walking by. They're just sort of hiding the guns and like shooting at each other.
Well, before that, they're outside before they get to that point, right? And then they see each other from across this fountain. And the fountain shoots up.
Yeah. And they try to shoot through the fountain.
The jets.
Yeah.
Right? So, but as he's kind of walking through the airport, right? The contract goes out. People get on their cell phones, and then one of the first people who walks by is this woman playing the violin.
Yeah.
And then he gets by her, and you're getting a montage of different people getting, and so he's going to meet all these people eventually.
Yeah. So
he foolishly think they can defeat John Wick.
Yeah, once he walks by the one with violin, she puts the violin down, reaches into her case, and she's got a gun in there.
Yep. And so they have a little, fight, and she gets close to him, and she actually shoots him a couple times.
Yeah, she shoots him in the stomach a couple times. Yeah,
it's loose, right?
Yeah,
and so she's able to kind of get some shots off.
Yeah, his suit has the armor in it, but his shirt does not.
Yes. The jacket has the armor.
The shirt's just a regular shirt.
Eventually, he's able to get her to the ground, and he breaks her neck.
Mm-hmm.
But he's walking off, and he's holding his gut, and he puts his handprint on this thing. He's walking by, and
then he walks by this large fellow, played by Yama,
Japanese fellow, and he just thinks he's going to crush him to death, right?
Yeah, and so John tries to fight him, but he's not budging. So eventually he jumps on his back. Yeah, he jumps on his shoulders and he shoots him right down the top of the head.
Yep.
And that knocks him down on the ground, and and John thinks he's done. He thinks he's killed him.
And then he starts to get up.
But he's walking away. Yeah, he starts to walk away. He starts to get up again, and so John turns around and shoots him again in the head. And then he drops.
But cut between that, because they're kind of going between a couple of the different fights, right? So as he's kind of coming out of the airport or the subway, there's this guy kind of at a little coffee stand, and you see two pencils.
Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And we've up to this point we've heard what John Wick can do with a pencil. But we have not seen it.
Yeah,
we get to see it.
So, and there's this guy, there's this other guy that's kind of hanging around, and so they kind of fight, and then he stabs one in the throat with a pencil. He stabs the other one in the throat, and they keep fighting.
In the eye, and
the one guy gets in the eye, and then he puts it on a little stand, on the coffee stand, little bar counter, right?
No, he puts it up against the wall.
Well, that's there's two of them,
yeah,
right?
that's right.
So
that's right. Yeah,
So you have the one that he leans at the pencil, and then he shoves the guy to his ear, and then he just kind of shoves it down harder.
Yeah.
That guy is dispatched. The other guy is still going around. He stabs him again in the throat, and he puts it against the wall.
Yeah, he puts the eraser against the wall, so the tip of the pencil is sticking out, and he just shoves the guy's head right onto it.
Yeah, he goes straight through like the back of his through the temple. That's right.
Yeah, right through the temple.
And then he pulls him off of it. I love how
he's still holding it against the wall.
there's little pieces of brain matter
just stuck to it.
Right, and that's kind of when you get the little scene with him going back to Cassian, and they get down to the subway.
Yeah, and they get to the subway, and
there's these two guys there, and he starts kind of because he's beating Cassian down on the subway platform, and he fights them. And up to this point, he has not had dessert.
No, he is not.
He gets to have dessert now.
He and Cassian are having a knife fight on the subway.
Well, before this, he and Cassian he uses the knife with two of these guys.
Yeah,
right?
True.
So the one guy, and then he's fighting them, and then he takes the knife and he shoves it up his Titan crotch.
Yes. Yes.
He pulls it out.
He just literally ripped the guy a new asshole.
Made from his scrotum, I think.
Yeah.
And then he puts him out of his misery by shooting him in the head. But
yeah,
they get on the same subway train, he and Cassian. And then they kind of wait for people to get off the train because they need space, right? And as you said, they have a knife fight on the subway train. And then finally, you get John shoving a knife through Cassian's chest. And he sits him down.
Yeah. Just like right through the center of the chest.
The bench.
And he tells him that knife is in your aorta. If you leave it where it is, you can get to help. But if you take it out, you will die.
So he gets off the train, and Cassian just kind of sits there. He has a smile on his face. And that's the scene, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't know.
Yeah, we don't see Cassian. We don't see Cassian for the rest of the movie, so we don't know where he went after this. If he left it in or took it out or what. So John goes after this. He goes to visit an old friend.
Well, he's still leaving. He's leaving the subway. This next station now, and he sees this homeless guy asking for money.
Yes, that's right. Homeless guy asking for money, and
so then he drops in a coin, and he says, "Take me to him."
Yes. So
right, and then he kind of lays down. The guy's sitting against a wall there at the subway station, right? And so John kind of lays down facing the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of puts a little small blanket over him, right? And that guy just kind of looks in his cup and looks at John, and then he puts all this other trash and bags over him, right? And because there's these two other guys that are like chasing John.
They're chasing John, and so they just run right by this homeless guy.
And the guy goes like, "Hey, you got any money?" And they look at him. They kind of like no. And then he pulls out a gun and shoots both of them.
Yes.
And then these two other homeless guys come out of nowhere and start dragging away their bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then John wakes up, and he's got an IV attached to him. And he's in some little lair on the ground somewhere. Two dead guys next to him.
You expect the Ninja Turtles to show up.
You do. But instead, no, the two those two dudes are dead next to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looks like they're about to get cremated in a furnace.
And then Morpheus walks out.
Well, not yet. They take him up to see Morpheus.
Ah, that's right. They take him up to see Morpheus.
Oh. And then Morpheus is like, Neo.
Morpheus is fighting
Bye-bye.
Neo.
He's like, no, he's just like John Wick, as I live and breathe.
Yep. So Lawrence Fishburne plays the Bowery King. You know, he is the ruler of the Bowery district of New York.
And he basically had like the guy is like his soldiers were just basically disguised as homeless people, right?
Yeah,
Getting information all over the city.
Yeah, because people don't take 2 looks at a homeless person.
Right. That's smart. And like they have this whole layer there. It's kind of a dilapidated building. There's all these like carrier pigeons that are up on the roof, right? And they can send messages with these pigeons, right?
And so the Bowery King starts talking to John. He's like, last time I saw you, you put a knife in my aorta and you gave me 2 choices. I could either take it out and die, or I could leave it in and maybe be able to find help and survive. Yes. So now we know that's exactly what he did with Cassian. So
John basically just has one request. He just wants a firearm, and he wants to know where Santonio is.
Yeah. And so he tells him that Santonio is, he's been hanging out at the only safe place
at his art museum. So like that's where he's going to be.
Yes.
And then John's like, well, can you get me a gun? And he's like, why would we help you? And John's like, well, Santonio wants to take control. And do you think he's going to stop at Upper Manhattan, Midtown? No, he's going to want to take control of the entire city, which is what's going to benefit you. Like you don't want him. So they agree to get him a Kimber 1911.
Yes. So yeah. So
with
Bowery
7
King
rounds.
Picks up, he gets this wood case, and he opens it up, and there's this real nice Kimber 1911 in there. And so he pulls it out, he's describing the gun. He's like, Kimber 1911, 7-round capacity.
And John's like, 7 rounds.
And he's like,
it's like the bounty on your head.
Bounty on your head is $7 million. $1 million a round, baby.
7 rounds.
$1 million a round, baby.
So John's like, okay, I can deal with that. And so they get to leave, and he's going to go down again. They're going to get him passage through the sewers. And then Bowery King looks at him. He's like, you owe me. John's like, you don't want me owing you. And then so we get in a scene. It's back at it's kind of his coronation now. And it's coinciding with this exhibit called like Reflections or something like that. It's going to be like they're using mirrors and strobe lighting.
Yeah. So, but it's at the art museum.
It's kind of funny. It's a very modern art type of installation. Even though you look at this, a lot of the stuff we see there is much more classical. So he's giving his thanks and his little toast, whatever. And then John Wick shows up. And everyone's looking. Everyone knows why John Wick is there.
Yeah. So all of Antonio's bodyguards start coming after John Wick.
And Ares is not in here yet. She's off somewhere else. And then, he's running away from John Wick. And, he's like, he's here.
Bodyguards handle him.
And so then Ares and a few other bodyguards show up in the car and they come out and they're looking, right? And they go into this installation, right? And again, it's like all mirrors and everything. And there's music, there's some music, and there's this woman's kind of a soft toned voice saying, welcome. Right? We hope this exhibit invites you to reflect on your inner self or something
like that.
Something along those lines, right? And again, it's kind of like I guess you could say it's like a modern House of Mirrors with like strobe lights.
Yeah. So John really quickly goes through those 7 rounds the Bowery King gives him. And so then he just starts taking the guns off of the people that he's killing so that he has more ammo. Right. So he puts that Kimber away because the Bowery King gave him that Kimber in order to kill D'Antonio. Yes. So he puts that away because that's a special gun. So once he runs out of ammo, he puts it away and he just starts taking guns from the people he's killing and using those guns to kill other people. And when he runs out of ammo, takes one from the next guy.
Yep. And then he kills more people.
Yeah.
And he takes another gun to kill more people.
Until finally,
they keep coming.
He finds a guy that has a 1911. He's like, hey, look at that. Same magazine.
What a coincidence. I love it.
So he takes the mag out of that gun, puts it in his 1911. And now he's got the ammo to try to kill D'Antonio.
So Ares finally shows up, and now she's kind of working her way through, trying to find Santonio. And she gets up towards him, and most of the guys are dead now. And Santonio tries talking with John, right? They're not far off from each other now, right? And John doesn't care. He's still taking care of the few people trying to come up and kill him, right?
Mm-hmm. And then
she's able to finally escort D'Antonio out. of this exhibit. And so now it's basically just him and Ares in there, right? And and it's kind of funny, like it's a series of doors to get out of this exhibit. And so the voice like, thank you for going through reflections or whatever the thing is. Like we hope you have a better sense of yourself. And then like he's always kind of getting there, and then she attacks him.
She thinks she can take out John Wick.
Yeah. And they have a kind of fist fight. And then she's got, a blade like in the back of her pants, right? That she trying attacking him with. And like you said, she thinks she can take him out. So earlier in the movie, when she first got back to New York, she apologizes to not killing John Wick and saying that she fucked up. No, I'm sorry, Ares. You should not need to apologize for this.
Yeah, because you would not have been able to kill John Wick.
You're lucky you're actually alive right now.
Because if you had tried to kill John Wick, he would have killed you.
And, I wonder about her character, because there's so many characters in this movie, even the ones that ultimately try to kill him, that have a certain respect for him. There's a lot of people that have respect for him, obviously, because he's got a lot of allies.
Yes.
But she doesn't seem to have any respect for him.
No.
She just wants to kill him and thinks she can kill him.
A lot like
so
Yosef.
it makes me wonder, like, yes. But I just kind of wonder, like, did she not hear the stories? Did she not know the stories? Did he kill her dad? And so that's just kind of blinding her, thinking that, I'm going to get my revenge. Because there's a point. Oh, yeah. Because like, when kind of forgot to mention this, back in the catacombs, when she tells him that he's the only loose end, she puts up, her pointer finger to be one, and then she puts it down, and then puts up her middle finger. And ultimately, that probably sealed her right there. No one gives John Wick the finger.
No one gives John Wick the finger.
No, she didn't die that day, but
she
is going to die.
Someone might be able to give John Wick the finger if he then, in return, gave them a phone call. How about I give you the finger and you give me my phone call?
We told you to be cooperative, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Baggins. Welcome to Rivendell,
Mr. Anderson.
Baggins.
So
there will be Lord of the Ring episodes.
Yes. So anyway,
we'll eventually get to Hugo Weaving.
So John wins the fight with Ares.
He basically has his own knife and he stabs it through her aorta. But he doesn't leave it in there.
Nope.
He rips it out.
And then she dies.
Well, she signs, "I'll be seeing you."
Ah, yes, that's right.
And then he's like, whatever. Yeah. And we won't see her die, but you see that now she's going to be deceased. Yeah. Quite soon.
Yeah. So then we get
a scene of D'Antonio.
And he's at the Continental. He shows
up to Karan. He's like, I would like a room. And you see Karan. He looks up and he knows who it is.
So Sharon,
he's like, he understands what it is. He's like, he tells him, welcome to the Continental.
And so there's like a lounge downstairs in the basement area.
And so he speaks with Winston, and he wants privileges revoked for John.
But John hasn't done anything to have his privileges revoked.
Winston's not having any of it.
Winston's like, well, you knew what you were getting into. You
fulfilled the marker.
You fulfilled the marker. What happens now is on you.
He had every right to go after you after that. And then, he tries to intimidate Winston, but he's a little bitch. Trying to intimidate Ian McShane. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, this is my kingdom.
Especially when he's on Ian McShane's ground. When he is in the Continental.
Like, this is my temple. This is my area. As long as he doesn't violate the rules, I don't have to revoke anything off of him. He's being like a little spoiled boy, saying he's going to talk to the high table about this. They're going to take away.
My daddy hears about this.
It's like, no. It's like, you can remain here and enjoy the sanctuary that it provides.
Because your rights have not been revoked either.
So he's fine, whatever. And so John comes in, and Karan sees him. Karan, you can tell already Lance Reddick's face says, shit. Yeah. Shit. He knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, so John, because John's got that look in his eye. That Baba Yaga look in his eye. And so Sharon tells him,
yeah. He asks her, I'm here to see D'Antonio.
Yeah, I'm here to see Santino D'Antonio. And
he's in the lounge, sir.
And so
he goes down.
John goes down, and D'Antonio's sitting there eating his steak.
He's eating steak. He's got some pan-fried fingerling potatoes.
Is it a steak or is it like a pork chop or something?
It might be like a pork chop, but he's eating the potatoes at this point. duck fat potatoes, and he puts it in his mouth, and he's enjoying it. He's got a glass of red wine. He's like, "Have you seen the menu at this place?"
It's like, the duck fat makes all the difference.
You could be here for months.
We could be here for a very long time and never eat the same meal twice. Yeah. And then he starts to talk some more.
And then you have Winston, and he's like, "Jonathan, just walk away."
Yeah. He's like, "Jonathan, just walk away." And D'Antonio opens his mouth to talk again, and John shoots him right between the eyes.
With the 1911.
With the 1911 that he got from Lawrence Fishburne.
Dodge this.
So Antonio, you see, he shoots him right between the eyes. You see the blood splatter across the floor behind him.
Yeah, and then his head just
and he just
jerks back,
falls back
he's there,
and
Winston just looks at him. It's like, "Jonathan, what have you done?" Like, I can't hide this. There's witnesses.
Yeah. So
Jonathan leaves, and he goes back upstairs. He goes by the front desk, and Charon's there waiting for him.
Charon's there with his dog. With John's dog, and he tells him he was a very good boy. He was a very good dog.
He's a little sad that they have to part ways, but he was a very good boy. He'll always have the memory of
dog sitting for John Wick,
or whatever it was, dog sitting for John Wick. I want a dog sit for John Wick.
Yes, me too.
John goes back home. He's in the burn.
That's right. He's in the ashes of his house, and it's raining.
Well, it's raining. It's at nighttime still.
Yeah.
And he finds I guess a necklace or bracelet.
It's a bracelet. It's Helen's daisy bracelet that she was wearing.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, when we see her some of the flashbacks, she's wearing this bracelet, and he finds that in the ruins of the house, and so he picks it up and he holds it.
He picks it up. He holds it. He kind of puts it to his mouth like he's kissing it, and he kind of falls asleep. It's the next day.
And
it's kind of an overcast type
there.
Day, and Charon's standing right there.
And he's like,
It's Week. Kind of a cold day. Like
he's like, "Mr. Week,
go on.
The manager would like to speak to you."
So the manager would like to speak with you, right? And so he gets in the car, and again, this is Jersey. Now this time he does not have to walk all the way to Manhattan.
They give him a ride.
He gets a ride, and they kind of pull up towards Central Park. And then he kind of points to where Winston's going to be. And then I love this. Like, this is obviously not the last chat. It seems like it might be the last chat. And, he's like, it's been an honor.
Yeah, it's been an honor.
And they say, like, good, it's been a pleasure, Mr. Wick.
It's been a pleasure,
Goodbye.
Mr. Wick. But, it's the whole, I don't want to do this, but I have to. You kind of force my hand.
So he goes down, he sees Winston, and that's kind of the conversation. He's like, the Camorra is double the bounty on your head. It
so now
has
it's 14 million
international.
Now, and I must W excommunicado because you have.
He's like, you
have
killed
done
a man
business
on company grounds.
Mm-hmm.
You left me no choice. And then the other thing he says, the doors to any service or provider in connection with the Continental are now closed. Right. So that would include guys making suits with body armor, providing blueprints, sommeliers that want to talk about Italian and German varietals.
And talk about weapons as if they were wines. And
provide dessert.
Dessert. I love the sommelier. He's so awesome. But yeah, so then Winston does do him a favor.
He's going to give him 1 hour.
He's going to give him 1 hour before the contract goes live.
Yes.
And so after their conversation, John starts walking away.
Well, before he walks away, they have kind of their own parting words.
Oh yeah, and at one point in this conversation, Winston says something, and everybody that's walking, like this is a busy area. Everybody's walking by, and everybody just stops. And it's revealed that all of these people are assassins.
Yes. And he just tells them, like, they're not dead because I deemed it not to be. And he says, I'll give you the 1 hour, but I can't delay it longer. And then does he give him something? Did he hand Jonathan anything? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, but then John tells him parting words before he runs off. He's like, tell them all, whoever comes, whoever it is, I'll kill them.
I'll kill them all.
Kill them all. And Jonathan just looks at him. He's like, I know you will.
Yeah. Winston he's like, he has that knowing look in his eye. He's like, yes, you will. I'm not worried about you one bit, Jonathan. So,
hey, and he's staying on his good side too.
Yeah.
Give him an hour. And
yeah.
As we'll find out in the next movie, like he's sacrificing a lot by actually giving
Yes,
him
he
that
is.
hour.
Yes, he is. But we'll get to that when we get to the next movie. When
we will get to that. And so
John Wick 3.
he starts kind of walking off and he's jogging off. And that's when Winston picks up his phone and he calls the switchboard, calls it in and says it's going to be 1 hour and the specifics of it, right?
Yeah. And so John's sort of like limping away. And then phones start going off all around
little phones going off all around them. And you see one of the homeless guys, Earl. His name was Earl.
Yeah.
That was the one that brought him to the Bowery King, the Lawrence Fishburne, right? He gets it. There's a lady that has like a stroller. She looks at it. And so as he keeps hearing them go off, his pace picks up. Yeah. He starts jogging a little bit faster.
A little bit. And, and then it just becomes a run.
Yeah.
Full on sprint. Just sprint.
And he got he had the music, the John Wick theme.
Music swelling up.
Swells up. And then finally cuts to black and you get the credit sequence. John Wick will return in John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. It doesn't say that, but you obviously know that John Wick 3 is going to happen.
Yeah, because this movie would not have ended the way it did if there was not another one coming.
That's right. But that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I think, and what a follow-up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's awesome. I love this series so much.
Like we said, it's bigger, it's badder, it's broader. It goes deeper into the rabbit hole. This assassins, organized crime world.
Yeah, like we said, in the catacombs scene, he killed about twice as many people as he did in the entire first movie. And that's only one scene from this one.
One thing about it's like, a lot of the scenes we have show him, just kind of in gunfight mode, right?
Yeah.
Now we get some up close and personal kills. We get to see how he gets to kill people with a pencil.
Yes.
And there's 2 deaths with a pencil.
Yes.
We see him take on a sumo wrestler.
Yeah. We see him take on Common.
But yeah, and I like how they kind of expand out kind of the types of scenes, right? The first one has a club scene, which was a big shootout, and there's the fight within the home. This time you get one in the catacombs and a rave within ruins, and then this art exhibit with a bunch of mirrors in it, right?
Although,
and so it just
slight spoiler alert for the third movie. I don't think there's a club scene in that one.
It's not.
There's one in the fourth, but not in the third.
Well, there's one in the fourth one. And I love it. Like, it provides enough details or dives deeper into this world a little bit more, right? And within the world we're in, but not so much as to, like, it makes you want to know more at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I want to find out more about all these assassins in this world. And you want to see more of these characters.
Yeah.
And obviously at this point, you're really invested in John Wick. You want to see him kill them all.
Everybody. You want to see him kill them all.
And more importantly, like, at this point now, you really want to see about the high table. Like, they keep building up the high table.
And you want to see if Sharon is going to dog sit again.
Yeah, and you want to see, the Sommelier again. Which sadly we don't.
Yeah, sadly we don't see the Sommelier.
Spoiler alert for 3 and 4.
I wish he came back, but
he was excommunicado, so he could not utilize his services. But it'd been nice to have a scene where someone else utilizes his services.
Well, also the Sommelier is not in the New York Continental. He's in the Rome one. So
he's in the Rome one.
So we don't know if the New York has a counterpart for the Sommelier.
It should be Simon Pegg.
It should be.
Anyway. Yeah. No, it's wow. Great start to this series.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad we're going to do the other 2. But we're going to wait for the other 2.
Yes, we're going to be waiting for the other 2.
I was thinking about this too. Like, I think how it ends here, it's like, it's such a good midway point to do it.
Yeah.
Like, after this movie, like, I'm ready to watch number 3. You know it's going to come. You also know you have to wait.
Yeah.
It's a nice cliffhanger. And it's going to figure out, like, how is John going to get out of this mess?
Yes. But yeah, we're going to wait for that one. We're not going to do that movie next. Before we tell you what movie we're going to do next, if you enjoy what you're hearing, then check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. We are Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out A&D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. We are also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And if you want to check out some of our movie reviews, some movies we've done on the podcast, and we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do, then check out our Letterboxd. That is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And then you can also just send us an email at robandtonycinematicadventure@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of John Wick Chapter 2. Did you think it was better than the first one? Did you think the first one was better than this one? Do you love John Wick? Do you hate John Wick? How do you feel? We want to know. We want to hear what you had to say. Are there other movies that you think we should do on the podcast? Do you think we should have followed up John Wick Chapter 2 with John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum? Or do you like the fact that we're splitting them up a little bit? But anyway, just send us an email. We want to hear from you. We want to know what makes you tick. We want to know what kind of movies you want to hear us talk about. So if you enjoy what you're hearing, then, go to our social media, give us a like and a follow, go to your favorite podcasting app, wherever you're listening to us, give us a good review, a good rating. That's how we move up in the standings, in the search, comment, in the recommendations, leave a comment, and that way we can reach more ears. We can reach more people that enjoy hearing a couple of random dudes on the internet talking about movies.
It's true. Yeah.
But yeah, we want to hear from you. But yes, like we said, the next movie that we talk about on here will not be John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. That will happen sometime in the future. We don't know when yet, but we will talk about it eventually. But the next movie, we are going to go and do a genre that we have not really done. I'm trying to think. Have we done? It's kind of
done pseudo. No Country for Old Men was kind of a modern one, I guess.
Yeah,
Die Hard's kind of one, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but not true one. We haven't done kind of true.
And even this isn't quite a true one.
It's not. It's a mashup.
Yeah, we're gonna delve into the world of westerns, but we're not just gonna do a full-on western.
We want to do something that's been kind of a movie that's kind of recent but been forgotten.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of a little box office bomb at the time.
It was.
Even, I don't know if it's remembered even all that well now.
Yeah, but I've always enjoyed it.
Yes.
It is an enjoyable movie.
This movie gives you what the title
done well.
Says
yes,
the movie is.
It is absolutely true to its title.
Just like this, like John Wick, this gives us John Wick.
Yeah.
And so you hear John Wick, John Wick's going to kill everyone. This movie tells you what the movie is and then delivers what that movie is.
100% what the title says is going to be in this movie. And without further ado, that movie is Cowboys and Aliens. So
Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford.
Yeah, we're doing yet another Harrison Ford movie. And you know what? This is not the last Harrison Ford movie we're going to be doing because he's been in a lot of excellent movies. So we're going to keep talking about Harrison Ford as long as we can. But also Olivia Wilde is in this one.
Yeah.
Paul Dano.
Right. Yeah, that was the Paul Dano era.
Yeah. And so, we're going to talk about
Sam Rockwell.
Yes, that's right. Sam Rockwell is in this.
Well, yeah. The other one I was going to say was Clancy Brown.
Yes, Clancy Brown.
We'll dive into all of them next week. Even talk about that. It's Jon Favreau. But anyway, yes.
So join us next time for Cowboys and Aliens.